When a farmer finds strange black eggs on his farm, he wonders what animal might have laid them. He begins to keep an eye on them, and when they hatch, he is so surprised that he starts crying. Farmer Tom had always dreamed of running a successful egg business. His farm, nestled in a quaint valley in Georgia, had been in the family for generations. However, recent years had not been kind to him. The once thriving farm now struggled to make ends meet. Rising food costs, increased competition, and a decline in demand for his traditional brown and white eggs had all taken their toll. So when he unexpectedly stumbled across a dozen black eggs scattered around his farm, he was so surprised he remained frozen in his spot for a good 10 minutes. He had never seen or even heard about eggs like these. None of his chickens had ever laid something similar. He wondered for a brief moment if he was looking at snake eggs, and looked around carefully, searching for slithering animals among the tall grass. However, it seemed that whatever had laid those eggs had left them behind. Farmer Tom didn't know what to think. On the one hand, those odd eggs might reveal scary creatures he would later have to fight to get out of his house. But on the other hand, they could be exactly what his farm needed to prosper again. People might be willing to pay more for those eggs if it meant giving a fun twist to their omelets, and perhaps they might pay more for the chicken meat as well, especially around holidays such as Halloween. He could become rich if those eggs hatched more black chicks. That is, unless someone else came to claim them before he did. Tom was not a thief, but those eggs were legally on his property, and he was simply too curious to leave them out in the open for everyone else to see. So he muttered a quick sorry to whatever creature had laid them and started loading them onto his truck. He would put them in an incubator he kept at the farm and wait for them to hatch and reveal the surprise inside. In the following days, Tom monitored the eggs closely and adjusted the temperature and humidity levels with precision, so they mirrored the warmth the eggs could get from a mother hen. Every morning, he would check on them, and his heart lifted at the sight of the smooth black shells still intact. He dared to dream about the strange creatures that would soon emerge from them. Would they be completely black as well? In his quiet moments, Tom imagined the flurry of interest these rare eggs could generate. He envisioned buyers flocking to his farm, each eager to pay top dollar to see completely black chickens. But despite his excitement, Tom remained cautious. He knew that there was still a long way to go before the eggs hatched. The days turned into weeks as Tom anxiously awaited the hatching of the black eggs. The expected hatching date came and went without any signs of life. Each day, Tom checked the incubator. He desperately hoped to see cracks in the shells or hear the faint peeping of chicks, but the eggs remained still and silent. It was as if their black shells mocked his hopes. Tension built within Tom as the days continued to pass without any change. The longer he waited, the more he began to doubt himself. Had he made a mistake bringing those eggs inside? What if they did not belong to chickens after all? Was he putting the entire farm in danger? Doubt crept in and gnawed at his confidence. Tom's daily routine had become a relentless cycle of care and worry. He woke before dawn and started his day by checking the temperature and humidity levels in the incubator. Despite his growing anxiety, he tried to remain hopeful. He convinced himself that those eggs were a gift from fate and not a bad omen. After tending to the eggs, Tom moved on to the rest of his chores. He fed and watered his chickens, cleaned the coops, and collected the regular brown and white eggs. The farm was still struggling, and the demands of maintaining it weighed heavily on his shoulders. Each task seemed more arduous, and his worry over the black eggs cast a shadow over everything he did. One chilly morning, Tom woke up feeling unusually weak. His head throbbed, and his body ached with fever. He tried to push through the discomfort, but it quickly became clear that he was too ill to carry out his daily tasks. The relentless worry and sleepless nights had taken their toll, leaving him bedridden and unable to care for the farm. Days turned into a blur as Tom lay in bed, his mind foggy with fever. The farm, once bustling with activity, began to show signs of neglect. Weeds grew unchecked, the chicken coops became dirty, and the feed bins started to run low. The regular egg production dwindled as Tom's absence took its toll on the animals. The tight-knit community around Tom's farm began to notice the changes. Neighbors whispered among themselves. They were concerned about the once thriving farm now falling into disrepair. Jake, Tom's longtime friend and neighbor, was the first to take action. He decided to check on the farm and see if Tom needed any help. As he approached the farmhouse, he saw the signs of neglect and knew something was seriously wrong. Jake knocked on the door and found Tom in a weak state. He was barely able to get out of bed. Realizing the severity of the situation, Jake quickly took charge. He'd assured Tom that he would take care of the farm while he recovered and urged him to rest and regain his strength. Jake threw himself into the work. He tended to the chickens, cleaned the coops, and made sure the animals were fed. He even reached out to other neighbors and asked for their help to keep the farm running. However, in his weakened state, Tom forgot to tell his friends about the mysterious eggs in the incubator. And soon enough, Jake and the other neighbors would get the surprise of their lives. One evening, as Jake was finishing up the day's chores, he heard a faint peeping sound coming from the chicken coop. His heart skipped a beat as he hurried inside with a flashlight in hand. He scanned the rows of nests. The sound grew louder. Finally, he reached the incubator and saw movement inside one of the black eggs. He was shocked at the sight and wondered where on earth Tom had found such strange eggs. Jake rushed back to the farmhouse to tell his friend that the mysterious eggs in his incubator were hatching. Just what exactly was inside of them? Tom only shook his head, telling his friend that he didn't know yet. But despite his weakened state, his eyes lit up with hope. Perhaps this was going to be the turning point he needed. As he recuperated, he told Jake everything about the strange black eggs, from the discovery to the sleepless nights he'd spent worrying that they would spell doom for his farm. He was grateful to have friends around now that the eggs were finally hatching. If something bad came out of it, they would help him get rid of it. But if something special hatched from them, then they would all share in his joy. 2 days later, Tom was well enough to get out of bed. He and Jake knelt by the incubator, their faces inches from the hatching eggs. Then the first chick emerged. Both men let out a sigh of relief when they realized that the animals inside the eggs were indeed birds. But the sigh turned into an excited gasp when they took in the chick's features. Its feathers were a glossy black that shimmered in the dim light. The chick's eyes blinked open, and it let out a small, triumphant chirp. One by one, the other eggs began to hatch. Each chick was a marvel, with sleek black feathers and bright, curious eyes. The hatching process was mesmerizing. The chicks struggled and fought their way out of the shells, displaying a resilience that reflected Tom's own journey. He watched, transfixed, as the last chick finally broke free. Jake quickly whipped out his phone and started searching for answers on the internet. "These might be Ayam Cemeni chicks," he said eventually, his voice breaking with emotion. Tom turned towards him with a frown. He had no idea what Ayam Cemeni chicks were. Chuckling, Jake explained that these Indonesian chickens are extremely rare and sought after because of their jet-black features, including eyes, beaks, and feathers, down to their very bones. Their eggs could be sold at an astonishing price. He was also sure that people would pay just to take a look at the chickens. He couldn't understand how those eggs ended up on Tom's farm, but he was pretty confident that they would take away all his financial problems. At that moment, Tom's emotions overwhelmed him. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he didn't try to stop them. He had fought so hard and sacrificed so much, and now at last he held the promise of a brighter future in his hands. The sight of the Ayam Cemeni chicks, so rare and so beautiful, brought a profound sense of relief and joy. He wept openly, his tears falling onto the straw-covered floor. The reality of the moment was sinking in. His farm had been on the brink of failure. But fate had bestowed upon it a chance to thrive. The black eggs had hatched, and with them, a new chapter for his farm began. The news of the hatching spread quickly through the community. Neighbors who had helped during Tom's illness gathered at the farm to see the remarkable chicks. They marveled at the Emamani. Their dark plumage and striking appearance drew gasps of admiration. Tom's renewed hope was not just about financial stability. It was about the dream he had almost lost and the passion he had poured into his work. The Emamani chicks symbolized a fresh start, a chance to rebuild and grow. As he watched the chicks explore their new world and peck at the straw, Tom felt a sense of fulfillment he hadn't known in years. In the days that followed, he carefully tended to the chicks. It was essential to ensure they received the best care. He constructed a special enclosure for them, complete with heat lamps and fresh bedding. He documented their growth, taking notes on their development and behavior. Their sleek black feathers gleamed in the sunlight, and their curious, lively nature brought a new energy to the farm. But it wasn't long before Tom began to notice something extraordinary about these chicks. Their unique characteristics went beyond their stunning appearance. The chicks were incredibly hardy. They thrived in conditions that would challenge other breeds. They grew faster and stronger than Tom had anticipated and displayed a robustness that set them apart. Their feathers were not only black, but had an iridescent sheen. When the light was just right, they shimmered with hints of green and purple. It was as if they carried a touch of magic in their plumage. Tom meticulously documented these observations. He realized that his Emamani brood was exceptional, even within their rare breed. Their quality and rarity made them a potential gold mine. Word of the remarkable chicks spread quickly and drew attention from beyond the local community. One afternoon, Tom received a visit from a man who introduced himself as Mr. Harris. He was a wealthy investor with a keen interest in rare and exotic breeds. Mr. Harris had heard about Tom's Imamani chicks and was eager to see them for himself. Mr. Harris was immediately captivated by the sight of the Imamani. He admired their unique beauty and noted their impressive health and vigor. He turned to Tom, his eyes gleaming with interest. "These chicks are extraordinary. I've never seen anything quite like them." Tom felt a surge of pride. He agreed that they were special and explained that he put everything into raising them. Mr. Harris nodded thoughtfully. "I can see that. I believe these birds have significant potential, both for breeding and for attracting niche markets willing to pay a premium for their rarity and beauty. I'd like to make you an offer." Tom's heart raced as Mr. Harris outlined his proposal. He was willing to invest in Tom's farm, providing the financial support needed to expand and improve operations. In return, Mr. Harris wanted a share of the future profits from the Imamani sales and breeding programs. The offer was generous and would secure Tom's financial future. Above all, it would ensure the farm's stability and growth. Tom listened carefully and weighed the offer. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for, a chance to not only save his farm but to see it thrive beyond his wildest dreams. With a firm handshake, Tom accepted the proposal. A weight lifted off his shoulders. The partnership with Mr. Harris meant that his Imamani chicks would bring prosperity and recognition to his farm. But it still wasn't over. One sunny afternoon, as Tom was tending to the flock, he noticed something peculiar about one of the chicks. It was slightly larger than the others, and its feathers had an even more pronounced iridescent sheen. Intrigued, Tom decided to take a closer look. He carefully examined the chick. Its eyes were a striking shade of blue, unlike the dark eyes of the other Imamani. Tom's heart skipped a beat as he realized he might have stumbled upon something extraordinary. He quickly contacted a geneticist who specialized in poultry to examine the chick. The geneticist arrived and conducted a series of tests. The results were astonishing. The chick possessed a rare genetic mutation that enhanced its already remarkable characteristics. This mutation not only made it even more visually stunning, but also endowed it with increased resilience and a faster growth rate. The chick was, in essence, a perfect specimen of the Imamani breed. Its qualities were unparalleled. News of the extraordinary chick spread quickly. Collectors, breeders, and enthusiasts all clamored to see and potentially acquire the bird. The demand skyrocketed and offers poured in, each one higher than the last. The revelation of this unique genetic mutation ensured that Tom's farm would remain at the forefront of the rare poultry market for years to come. With the value and demand for his Imamani chicks now secured, Tom's long-term success and the sustainability of his farm were guaranteed. Every day he would stand in the coop and watch the magnificent birds, pecking at the ground until a deep sense of fulfillment washed over him. Against all odds, he had not only saved his farm, he had turned it into a shining example of hope and prosperity. What a surprising twist. You have a story about someone who took a desperate chance on something outlandish, in the hope that it would change their life. Tell us about it in the comments, we'd love to hear. For now though, we're out of here. Catch you in the next video. Go!